Sarah's fingers trembled as she counted 3 silver coins, all that stood between Emma and starvation. The December blizzard hammered Mercy Creek's general store windows while her 8-year-old daughter coughed against her shoulder, fever burning through threadbare wool. "Your daughter needs a home, and my bed needs you." The gruff voice cut through the storm's howl. Sarah spun to face Jake Sullivan, the town's most notorious bachelor, his weathered hat dripping melted snow. Gasps echoed from other customers as his scandalous words hung in the frigid air. "Excuse me?" Sarah clutched Emma tighter, shocked by his boldness. Jake's steel-gray eyes never wavered. "Heard Henderson's evicting you tomorrow. Winter's killing weather. And that cough sounds like pneumonia brewing. How dare you? I ain't asking for love, ma'am, just partnership." His calloused hand gestured toward the raging storm. "You need shelter. I need help managing my place." Simple as that. Emma stirred, blinking fever-bright eyes. "Mama, who's the nice man?" "Nothing about this is simple. Mr. Sullivan." Sarah's voice cracked despite her efforts to sound strong. Jake pulled a folded paper from his coat, pressing it into her palm. His touch was surprisingly gentle for such rough hands. "Address is there. Storm's getting worse by the hour." Mrs. Peterson whispered loudly to her companion about improper arrangements and fallen women, but Jake's steady gaze never left Sarah's face. "Decision's yours," he said quietly. "But that little girl deserves better than freezing in some boarding house room." Without another word, he turned and disappeared into the white fury outside, leaving Sarah staring at the paper while Emma's labored breathing counted the seconds of their desperate situation. Midnight found Sarah studying Jake's address by flickering candlelight, while Emma's fever climbed. The eviction notice lay crumpled on their narrow bed, Mrs. Henderson's spidery handwriting sealing their fate. $2 for medicine, $5 for another week's rent, $18 for stage passage to Denver, where her sister might be. Sarah had 3 coins and a daughter dying by degrees in this frozen room. "Mama?" Emma's voice was a whisper. "Are we going to be warm soon?" "Yes, sweetheart." The lie came easily now. Sarah pressed her palm to Emma's burning forehead, remembering James promising they'd be rich in the Colorado goldfields. Instead, the mine collapse took her husband and left them drowning in his debts. The journey west to find family had drained their last hope. Through the frosted window, she could see smoke rising from distant chimneys, families safe and warm, while hers faced another frozen dawn. Jake Sullivan's offer echoed in her mind. Scandalous, but genuine. "Mama, I'm scared." "I know, say, baby. But I think we're going home tomorrow." Sarah began bundling their few possessions, her decision crystallizing with each of Emma's labored breaths. Pride was a luxury they couldn't afford. Whatever society thought of unmarried arrangements, Emma needed warmth and medicine tonight. She wrapped her daughter in their only good blanket, whispering promises of hot meals and soft beds. Outside, the wind howled like a living thing. But for the first time in months, Sarah felt something warmer than desperation stirring in her chest. Hope, dangerous, desperate hope. Dawn painted Jake Sullivan's cabin silver against the frozen landscape, smoke curling from its chimney like a promise of warmth. Sarah's legs ached from trudging through knee-deep snow, but Emma had stopped coughing in the past hour. Jake opened the door before she knocked, as if he'd been watching for them. His eyes took in Emma's flushed face and Sarah's exhausted posture without judgment. "Come in. Coffee's hot." The cabin's interior surprised her, rough-hewn but clean, with feminine touches that spoke of careful preservation. A rocking chair sat near the stone fireplace, and dried flowers hung from the rafters. "Your wife had good taste," Sarah observed, settling Emma in the rocking chair. "Had 3 years now." Jake's voice carried old pain, but no bitterness. Influenza took her and the baby both. He handed Sarah steaming coffee and knelt beside Emma, producing a small wooden doll from his pocket. "This was hers. Thought your little one might like it." Emma's fever-bright eyes widened. "She's beautiful. Just like you, sweetheart." Jake's smile transformed his stern features. "There's medicine in the kitchen, and hot soup on the stove." Sarah watched him lift Emma with practiced gentleness, understanding flooding through her. This wasn't about scandal or impropriety, it was about healing. 2 broken souls and 1 innocent child, finding shelter from life's storms. "The sleeping arrangements," she began. "Separate rooms till you're comfortable otherwise. This is about partnership, not ownership." As Jake settled Emma in a real bed piled high with quilts, Sarah glimpsed the man beneath the gruff exterior, someone who understood loss, who knew that sometimes survival meant accepting unconventional grace for the first time in months. Emma's breathing eased into peaceful sleep. January's grip tightened around Mercy Creek like a frozen fist. But Jake's cabin remained a haven of warmth. Sarah had fallen into rhythms that felt dangerously like belonging. Morning coffee shared in comfortable silence. Evenings by the fire while Jake whittled toys for Emma. The town proved less welcoming. "Shameful arrangement," Mrs. Peterson hissed when Sarah entered Henderson's store. "Corrupting that innocent child." Jake's jaw tightened as he stepped beside Sarah. "Mrs. Mitchell is under my protection now. Henderson, that means her credit's good as mine." "Protection?" Henderson's sneer was ugly. "That what you're calling it, Sullivan?" "I'm calling it none of your damn business." Sarah touched Jake's arm, feeling the tension coiled in his muscles. "It's all right. We have what we need." But Emma's first day at school brought fresh challenges. She returned tearful, reporting whispered taunts about sinful living and unwed mothers. Sarah's heart broke watching her daughter's confusion over adult prejudices. That evening, a winter storm brought more than snow. Wolves, driven desperate by hunger, attacked Jake's small livestock pen. Sarah grabbed the rifle while Jake secured the frightened animals, their partnership flowing like they'd worked together for years. As they tended a sheep's minor wounds by lamplight, Jake's hand covered hers on the bandages. The touch sent warmth racing through her that had nothing to do with the nearby fire. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for standing with me today. Thank you for giving us a home." Their eyes met and held, something unspoken passing between them like a promise neither was quite ready to voice. February's thaw brought hints of spring and deeper intimacy. Sarah transformed Jake's functional cabin into a true home, her feminine touches softening its stark edges. Jake responded by teaching Emma to feed chickens and carve simple wooden figures, his patient gentleness revealing the father he'd lost. "Why do you and Mama sleep in different rooms if you love each other?" Emma asked one evening, her innocent question hanging in the firelit air. Jake nearly choked on his coffee. "What makes you think we love each other, little one? You look at her the way Papa looked at Mama before he went to heaven." Sarah felt heat flood her cheeks. "Emma, it's not that simple." "Why not?" Emma's 8-year-old logic was implacable. "You're both sad when you're apart, and happy when you're together. That's love, isn't it?" Jake's eyes found Sarah's across the room, something raw and vulnerable flickering in their depths. They'd grown closer through shared routines, his coffee ready when she woke, her mending completed while he worked, conversations that stretched late into winter evenings. Love's complicated, sweetheart, Sarah managed. No, it's not, Emma yawned, already drowsy from her warm milk. Love is when someone makes you feel safe and happy. Jake makes us both feel safe and happy. Later, after Emma was tucked into bed, Sarah found Jake on the porch, despite the cold. He stood silhouetted against the star-filled sky, shoulders rigid with some internal struggle. "She's not wrong," he said without turning around. "Jake, I know this wasn't part of our arrangement, but somewhere between your first morning coffee and tonight, it stopped being about convenience." Sarah stepped closer, her breath misting in the cold air. "For me, too." March arrived with devastating news delivered by Pastor Williams himself. The territorial governor's moral reform campaign had reached Mercy Creek, targeting unsanctioned cohabitation and threatening legal consequences for those who defied conventional marriage. Marry her immediately or dissolve this sinful arrangement, Williams demanded. Standing rigid in Jake's parlor, like an avenging angel, the community will no longer tolerate such corruption. Worse news followed. Margaret Sullivan, Jake's late wife's sister, arrived from Denver with moral authority blazing in her eyes and legal papers in her reticule. "You're destroying Clara's memory," Margaret accused, her voice sharp as winter wind. "She was pure, godly, everything this woman is not." "Leave Sarah out of this," Jake warned, but Margaret's assault continued. "And exposing that child to such degradation, I have friends in territorial government. One word from me, and they'll remove the girl from this environment permanently." Emma's face went white at the threat, pressing closer to Sarah's side. The school board had already banned her from classes, citing moral concerns, and now even her safety felt uncertain. "The whole territory's watching. Sullivan," Williams added, "conform, or face complete social and economic exile." Jake stared at the ultimatum papers, his weathered hands trembling slightly. Sarah watched his internal struggle, seeing the weight of community pressure bending his shoulders. Maybe they're right," he said finally, not meeting her eyes. "Maybe I've been selfish, thinking only of my own loneliness." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. After everything they'd shared, everything that had grown between them, he was choosing respectability over love. "I see." Her voice came out steady despite her breaking heart. "Then we'll leave tomorrow." April's warmth mocked Sarah's frozen heart as she packed their meager belongings once again. Emma sat silent on the bed, clutching the wooden doll Jake had given her, tears tracking down her pale cheeks. "I don't want to leave," Emma whispered. "I love Jake. I love our home." "Sometimes loving someone means letting them go," Sarah said. Though the words tasted like ash, Jake found them preparing to leave, his face haggard from a sleepless night. He picked up Emma's abandoned doll from the floor, staring at it like it held all his regrets. "You can't take her," he said hoarsely. "Not Emma. She belongs here. We both know I was never meant to stay." Sarah's voice broke despite her efforts. "You have a life here, a reputation to protect." "And what life is that?" Jake's laugh was bitter. "Going through motions, pretending emptiness is respectability?" Emma looked between them with devastating clarity. "You're both being stupid." "Emma, no. Mama, you love each other, but you're scared people will be mean about it. But people are already mean, so what's the difference?" Jake knelt before the child, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "Sometimes grown-ups make things complicated when they should be simple. Then stop being complicated Emma's 8-year-old wisdom cut through their fears like sunlight through storm clouds. Jake stood slowly, his eyes finding Sarah's. "I'd rather be damned with you than blessed without you." Sarah's breath caught. "Jake, I was wrong yesterday. Wrong to let fear matter more than love." He stepped closer, his voice rough with emotion. "Marry me, Sarah, not because they demand it, but because I can't imagine facing another sunrise without you beside me." Through the window, Emma smiled as her parents finally stopped being foolish and kissed like they meant it. May's town meeting packed the hall beyond capacity, voices raised in moral outrage and whispered speculation. Jake stood before the hostile crowd with Sarah and Emma flanking him, their united front challenging every conventional expectation. "This woman has more honor in her little finger than the lot of you have combined," Jake declared, his voice carrying over the angry murmurs. "She's turned my house into a home, raised a daughter with more courage than most grown men, and asked for nothing but basic human decency." "Then prove it, Sullivan," Pastor William shot back. "Marry her proper or lose her forever." "I intend to marry her," Jake replied calmly. "On our timeline, in our way, because love doesn't bow to political calendars." The crowd erupted in shocked protests, but unexpected voices rose in support. Tom Bradley, whose crops Jake had helped save last summer, stood first. "Sullivan's never broken his word or failed a neighbor. If he says they're honorable people, that's good enough for me." More allies emerged from the crowd, families Jake had helped, women Sarah had nursed through illness, children who'd benefited from Emma's gentle friendship despite the adults' prejudices. The debate might have continued indefinitely, but Sarah's past arrived in the form of her brother-in-law, Martin Wheeler, drunk and belligerent as always. "Girl belongs with blood family," Wheeler slurred, grabbing Emma's arm. "Not these frontier degenerates." Jake's fist connected with Wheeler's jaw before the man could complete his threat. Emma scrambled behind Sarah as Wheeler hit the floor, cursing and bleeding. "Territorial Judge Morrison's been following this case," announced a stern voice from the hall's entrance. The crowd parted respectfully as the elderly judge entered. "And I've seen enough to make my ruling." His weathered eyes surveyed the scene, Jake protective and defiant, Sarah dignified despite the chaos. Emma clinging to both adults with obvious love and trust. Stable, loving homes matter more than social convention. These three are a family in every way that counts. June's wedding meadow bloomed with wildflowers and the faces of true friends. Sarah wore her mother's simple blue dress, altered to fit her changing figure, their first child already growing beneath her heart. Jake stood proud in his best suit. Emma between them, holding a bouquet of prairie roses. Pastor Williams had refused to officiate, but Judge Morrison stepped forward with quiet dignity. "Do you, Jacob Sullivan, take this woman as partner in all things?" "I do, in all things, for all time." "And do you, Sarah Mitchell, choose this man as your companion through whatever storms may come?" "I do, gladly and forever." Emma beamed as Jake lifted her onto his shoulders, proclaiming her his daughter in the eyes of God and law. The small gathering cheered, their support worth more than 1,000 conventional blessings. Summer brought prosperity to their unconventional family. Sarah's efficient management and Jake's hard work expanded their land holdings, while Emma thrived in the rural school that welcomed her with open arms after the judge's ruling. By autumn's harvest, even former critics grudgingly admitted the Sullivan family's obvious happiness and success. Sarah's pregnancy showed clearly now, Jake's protective pride evident in every gesture. As October's first frost approached, Sarah found Jake carving their names into the cabin's doorframe, his own, hers, and Emma's arranged like a blessing. Making it official, she teased, one hand resting on her growing belly. Making it permanent. He pulled her close, his other arm reaching for Emma as she skipped up from feeding chickens. This is our home, our family, our choice. Through the windows, firelight danced warm against winter's approach. But inside their cabin, spring lived eternal, in Emma's laughter, in Sarah's quiet contentment, in Jake's gentle strength protecting them all. The storms would come again, as storms always do, but they would weather them together. This family, born of necessity and tempered by love. Their roots too deep now for any wind to shake. Home, Sarah thought, watching her husband and daughter plan improvements for next year's garden. Finally, truly home, the end.